Welcome to Conversations Aloud. Today, we're asking a fundamental question. Are U.S. government officials truly upholding the Constitution, the document meant to guarantee freedom and limit power? Joining us is Kirk Beck, a retired captain from the U.S. Corps of Engineers. Welcome to the show, Kirk.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Great to have you. So let's begin with what does it mean, in your view, to uphold the Constitution? Is it just about obeying the law, or is it something different?
It begins with just a basic understanding of what is the common law. No victim, no crime. Our, our desire is to live in peace with all people, and the government should be only involved in our lives to the extent of making sure that people don't trespass the rights of others. Law is supposed to be basically negative. The positive aspects of living on the planet are voluntary. People decide of their own free will to help other people. Government shouldn't be coercing us into what some people, the elite, might think is a proper way of living. The founding fathers of this country understood that basic understanding, and they wanted to give to the American continent a form of government that would allow the people to live free and to be able to enter into commerce and voluntarily associate for the better of everyone. The Constitution of the United States is not a long document. The American people have lost many of the founding precepts. Even when a woman who's running for the judgeship I'm speaking with, and I simply ask her, what's the Seventh Amendment? And she doesn't know. Yet she's running for office, and the Seventh Amendment says I have the right to a jury trial in her courtroom.
Where do you see the failure here if people don't even understand the Constitution, which, to your point, isn't a very long document? So it should be taught in high school and kind of, at every level. So where is the failure here?
Failure is that we've given the educational process over to government. 90% of our students go through public schools or government schools. If government's purpose is to control the people, then the best way to do that is to educate the people that government is necessary to have an ever-increasing influence in the people's lives. Now, another failure is the churches. The churches have done a very poor job of educating people. They seem more concerned about making sure that the lights are on rather than educating the people as to what the truth really is. Most people are just interested in being comfortable. They don't want to accept the responsibilities that come with a republic. They might complain about their rights being violated, but they very seldom have a discussion about the responsibilities that they have. And that is fundamentally the problem. There's just a tremendous amount of apathy, and we've given too much of the control voluntarily to the government. I've found out through my efforts that it doesn't have to be that way. The government can be kept at a distance, can be controlled.
So you're saying basically it's the government has an intention not to educate people at that level for control, but also there's an agency perspective of every individual not taking that responsibility, and especially on the ground, organizations such as the church not taking that responsibility.
Exactly. Now, you'll listen to people talk about the problem all the time. My concern is, look, all I have to do is look around. I can see the problem. What I want to know is how we can actively work against the people who are causing the problem, that we can bring about more liberty. Now, I want to say something right away that at the end of this presentation, I do have a gift for the people who are watching. I'll explain it more. But I'm giving the people something to do. And not just end this podcast with, well, it's a pretty bad situation, and we can only hope for the best, or as most Americans say, well, wait till the next election. Or some people say, well, Donald Trump will take care of everything. Donald Trump doesn't have a clue as to what's going on in my county and city. It's my people, my friends, relatives working in this area that make the difference. We don't look to government for the solution. We only look for government to protect our rights. The Declaration of Independence begins with those most cherished words. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. That's probably all that most Americans have memorized. Just life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Most Americans would know that. But the very next words are, we go on to say that government exists for the purpose of establishing the rights of the people. That's the very purpose of government, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers by the consent of the people. That's a tremendous statement right there. There's two great truths right there. One, government only exists to secure the rights of the people. They don't go up there and try and make the world better. That's not their job. And secondly, they derive their powers by the consent of the government. So, the consent of the people, I should say. I'm one of the people, and I don't consent to about 90% of the laws that are coming out these days. I don't consent. Most of them don't affect me. I don't run a business, so I don't have to worry about somebody giving me, passing a statute that says I have to pay everybody $20 an hour. That doesn't affect me directly. But the price of the hamburger is just going to go up another 80 cents because the government is forcing the burger company to have to pay the employees more money. All I can do is try to educate more people as to, well, why are you doing that? They don't have the right to tell you to do that, but if you consent to it, they'll be watching you very carefully to make sure that you do what the statute says you are to do.
Yeah. So we'll go into the solutions in a bit. I just want to kind of touch on what you're saying here. In terms of consent, isn't the idea that it's a majority consent, which people will argue is happening because the people are electing those government officials, and the majority are electing them, and therefore, they're actually taking, there is consent.
Yeah. You're describing a democracy, the rule of the majority. But America is not a democracy. America is a republic. I can't tell you how many people who share my philosophy in a lot of ways use the word democracy.
Can you explain the difference?
The founding fathers called it a mob. Benjamin Franklin called it two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner. I have rights. If the people want to pass statutes that affect them adversely, in my opinion, I don't have to go along with it. I just simply have to go through a remedy process. And that's the action item that I always give to people. Why are you putting up with that? You've got a way to deal with it. Put it back on them. Force government to tell you where in the Constitution they have the authority to do that. And every time I've done that in the last 7 years, I get what I want. I don't have to follow their dictates. I have to follow the golden rule, which basically is do no harm to anybody else. I voluntarily decide to help people around the world. I give my money to organizations that help the poor. I don't have the government telling me we're taking my money and basically developing a bunch of victims and slaves around the world, doing what American government corporations want these other countries and organizations to do.
So what you're saying is that a democracy is different to a republic, and the role of the government officials is to uphold the Constitution, which is basically about rights of people. That's different to creating legislation about everything and anything, which is what's happening right now.
Exactly. Government's like a cancer. If you don't shine the sunlight on it, it's just going to continue to grow and grow and grow. And too many people, that's okay. You know, I've got my car, I've got my now nice house, everything's going pretty good for me. So don't bother me. Don't bother me with my responsibility. I am more and more aggressive all the time, poking at people. You have a responsibility, especially if you're a Christian. You have a responsibility to your fellow man and to God to honor him and to lay down your life. Stop always worrying about yourself. Care about other people.
Yeah. But isn't the argument that that is the intention of those legislation is to, give people the right and defend them? As an example, you mentioned there not increasing the minimum wage. Why is that increasing? I think your point was, isn't the idea that people are not taken advantage of in a very kind of capitalistic environment where if an organization has a monopoly over things, it can dictate whatever price it pays people, and if that happens, the rights of people are eroded, and therefore the government steps in to say, actually, this is a minimum wage so that people are not taken advantage of.
Adam Smith wrote about this at great length. Talking about the invisible hand, that people making individual decisions for their own betterment will have a far greater benefit to the community than if you have a group of people who believe they have some kind of superior knowledge to make the decisions for the people. The Soviet Union was an example of government deciding everything. Finally imploded. It blew up because too many people, hey, I can't get ahead. There's no reason to work any harder than what's government's observing. Their productivity kept decreasing and decreasing. It wasn't because the Russian people were any different than the American people. They simply had a government that didn't allow individual liberty to provoke people to do a better job.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be paid essentially the same. So they all enjoyed what was called equal misery.
Yeah. I totally agree in terms of, obviously, communism, a lot of countries have tried that and it hasn't worked. Capitalism seems to be the best option that we have. The argument, I think, for a lot of people is that, some people in America are having two jobs, and yet they are still in poverty. It seems like, the system somewhere, if left alone, is not allowing for people to have the rights that they should be having, and therefore the government should intervene in those instances, which are not every instance the government should intervene, but in some instances where the market seems to create this toxic environment that's not sustainable, it intervenes. Do you see that as a problem?
A serious problem. Well, we're going to get $20 an hour to turning burgers at the burger place. That's a pretty good deal for the guy who gets the $20 an hour. He used to get $14 an hour. Now he's getting 20. So he's feeling pretty good about it. All the people who are coming into the restaurant, they're paying more money now. Some of them can't afford to go into McDonald's anymore because it's too expensive. Then you've got the large number of people who lost their job. They don't have a job anymore. So they're down there with the welfare agency. They used to have a job. They don't have one now. So it's meddling in the free market.
Yeah,
And
I think
meddles, it cannot make the decisions that the great majority that the people are going to make for themselves. It's just basically, do you trust individuals to make decisions best for themselves? Or do we have to have the government agency come in and do all the thinking for it?
I think a lot of people, when they think about the minimum wage, they think that increase in wage is going to come out of the profits of the company, and so the company will have less profits, and they will kind of redistribute that across to the people that are getting that higher minimum wage. But in a lot of instances, in reality, what happens is that the profits are not that changed, but what will happen is less people are employed, costs, those prices are transferred to the consumer who has to pay for those prices. But at the same time, there's this issue of people working more than one job, but still in poverty, which seems like a big problem that we don't know how to solve. But I want to go back to your point that you said the U.S. is a republic, but not a democracy. Is that what you said?
Yes, the Constitution of the United States states that every state must be uh, given a Republican form of government. It doesn't say democracy.
What's the difference? Sorry for people that don't know. What's the difference?
Democracy is basically the rule of the majority. A republic is a rule of law. A republic guards and protects the rights of the individual. It puts emphasis on the individual. Democracy puts emphasis on the majority. That's the most basic difference between republic and democracy. But the words are not interchangeable, but I would say most people in this country understand the word democracy. They use it all the time. They very seldom will distinguish it from a republic. And what you've seen across the globe, like Soviet Union, Union of Soviet Republics, they're not republics at all. People have lost the understanding of individual words. And Confucius said that a long time ago. He said, if I had all the power in the world, I'd want to return words to their original meaning. Education, I mean, there's power in words. Words must have clear definition. The word democracy has been replacing republic in the hearts and minds of too many Americans. And all they have to do is go back and read James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and find out that they loathed democracy. They thought it was terrible. Yet you can go into a government class in the United States and they'll talk about democracy the whole time. You listen to Carlson, he'll even use the word democracy.
And just your point, just to make it clear, your point is that a democracy infringes on the rights of the individual because it's about the majority and not the individual.
Yes. And in somebody's mind, it's necessary to conform the majority of the people in order to make sure that we deal with poverty. We deal with some other problem. That's the idea of a certain number of people who consider themselves superior. This is my call in life, is to help everybody do what's right. I'll decide for everybody else. Frederick Bastiat wrote The Law, a very small treatise in 1850. And basically, he spent the last 2/3 of the book just talking about all these Democrats, all these people who believed that they had the best ideas for bringing about a more just society. I'm not questioning the sincerity of many of these people. Bastiat said bad laws come about because of two evils. And one of those was false philanthropy. Philanthropy, the desire of love of humanity. Some of these people think that, hey, I see something wrong, I want to fix it. So I'm going to go into government and I'm going to do my very best to fix it. Hey, they may have noble principles. They don't understand basic economics. Individual people making their own decisions. And where government comes in and makes sure that if you're encroaching on somebody else, we're going to stop that. We're not doing a very good job of that. A good example for the listeners is the books by John Perkins. He wrote the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Then he came out with another book, The Secrets of the American Empire. And what he points out is how corporations have gone into third world countries and have bribed government officials, or in some cases assassinated them, in order to get the resources of that country under their control. So you have many third world countries here in the United States. Most of the Central American countries are not wealthy. And we had this mass migration under Biden, people leaving because basically there wasn't a way to live comfortably or even reasonably comfortable in places like Honduras. So they were willing to take great danger upon themselves to come to the United States. Well, our corporations and our government, CIA, is involved in bringing about so many of these problems in the other parts of the world. Government causes problems and then comes along later to fix them by taking away our rights. Now, I say the Democrats will cause the problems, the Republicans will come along later and take away our rights in order to fix it. It's a very devilish process.
Mm. Okay, that's that's interesting. And I guess the issue is that as you create more laws, it's kind of like a snowball effect, whereby more laws created create more likely to create infringements and encroachments, which require more laws to protect the other people, and it never stops. You continuously kind of creating new laws. It's like like the tax code. You create a new tax code, but then it has holes in it, so you have to create new laws which has holes in it, it's just a continuous process, right? But the idea of the republic is limited government to ensure the basics rights, and then that the people kind of engage within within each other, which is very far away from what we have today. So what is the solution here? How do we ensure that government is not getting too involved in everything and intervening in everything, creating this kind of complex world where everyone doesn't feel served, even though it's a democracy?
I talk to people, I'll ask them a question like, what are the 5 rights embedded in the very first amendment to the Constitution? Literally, you could ask 100 people and you probably get maybe 2 or 3 that can give you all 5. I ask this question of people who are in government, and they can't even give me the answer. Well, all right, they know religion, freedom of speech, assembly, the press, but then there's this other one, petition. The right to petition for redress or remedy of grievances. There it is, right there in the First Amendment. When government sends me a piece of paper that tells me I have to do something, I go to the law and I see, now, does that make sense? No, it does not make sense. So I then will go to in my case, the bank, and I have them notarize an affidavit. Now, it's important for the listeners to know that an affidavit is simply a statement of the facts that you're willing to swear to under oath.
Just a statement that you're making that
Yeah.
is kind of like notarized?
Right. My affidavit, and that's what my free gift is. I will give a template for the listeners so they can see a basic form of the affidavit that we use. My affidavit in the first paragraph spells out the responsibility of the government public servant to answer my affidavit. Don't tell me to go talk to an attorney. You wanted the job, whether you're a legislator, a member of the executive or the judicial branch. You wanted the job. You're getting paid quite well. This is part of your job. This is how I read the Constitution. If I'm wrong, set me straight. My final paragraph is, I'm giving you 30 days in order to refute what I'm saying. Otherwise, everything in my affidavit can be used against you by name. I'm not sending my affidavit to an agency. I'm sending my affidavit to the guy at the top of the agency. So if I have a problem with the Department of Motor Vehicles, then I'm going to find out who the guy is at the top, and that's where my affidavit goes. And I send it certified mail, and I get a little green card that comes back that tells me that he received it. I have therefore properly notified my adversary. There are rules of common law that came to us from merry old England, and this is one of them. If you've got a problem, or even a potential problem, you have a responsibility to notify your adversary. I do so, and I tell them you have 30 days to rebut. And then I add these very crucial words. Otherwise, everything in my affidavit can be used against you personally. in any court in America. And that shuts them down because it's no longer an agency. Hey, this guy's coming after me. So when I got a traffic ticket for not coming to a complete stop, I have gotten several of these in my lifetime. In all the other cases, I lost. This time, I simply sent the deputy sheriff a paper and explained to him exactly what he did wrong, because I know the law. And I told him, you have 30 days to rebut. When I went to court, he was there, I was there. He gave a piece of paper to the judge and he said, Mr. Beck, your case has been dropped. You may leave. That was it. The people who have been teaching me this have been doing this for 6 long decades with over 10,000 victories, and I won a traffic ticket using this method. So from there, I've used it in other areas. I've had a statute, a bill that was going to be passed. We did affidavits alerting the government officials that their law, their statute, was not going to be constitutional, so you better pull it. And it would pull.
So sorry, Kirk. What you're saying is that you create a statement saying why you think either whether it's a bill or a fee is not upholding the Constitution, and you request you have 30 days to refute this, and if they don't refute it, it becomes a valid, accurate statement because they haven't refuted this, whether it's the legislator or whoever is your adversary, as you called them. And then if they haven't refuted, you could use that in the courts to as an accurate fact of the situation because it hasn't been refuted. Is my understanding correct?
Yes, that's correct. Now,
okay.
The problem we have is that a lot of time the courts are I like the benefit of doubt. I think a lot of the judges just simply don't know the law themselves. They're used to just doing things the way it's been done for the last 10 decades. So let's just continue. So when we had a woman coming to our church who was going to run for judgeship, I talked to her and I said, what's the 7th Amendment? She got very embarrassed. She said, I'm sorry, I don't know. I'd say, well, Amy, that's the amendment that gives me a right to have a jury trial in your courtroom. Now, she was really embarrassed. She didn't even know the 7th Amendment gave me a right to have a jury trial in her courtroom. But she was running for office.
Yeah.
This is an example of uneducated people being in government. It's the people's responsibility to educate government. It's not the government's responsibility to educate us. And sometimes when you bring this to their attention, you can see that they're very confused because what he's telling me is true. And I can see what he's saying in the law, but that's not the way we've been doing it for so long. So sometimes you'll get some errors on the part of judges. They'll make mistakes. Then you have to go after the judges. It's just a process of educating people. I'm very tactful, very effective, very friendly towards people that disagree with me because I understand I used to live there. I understand where they are. They're uneducated, and talking down to people is not the way to heal the situation. You just want to work with them and help them understand what the real law is.
Yeah. So sorry, is a affidavit like a subpoena? A subpoena
is telling someone that they have to show up for a hearing.
Okay.
When I sued Best Buy, the corporation, they didn't have to show up. They did, but they didn't have to show up. If they don't show up, they're going to lose for sure.
So why do they have to respond to an affidavit, or do they have to respond to an affidavit? They have to respond if they want to refute the statement, but if they don't respond, then they accept the statement, correct?
They never respond to the affidavit.
They never respond.
But I get to be free. I can't make other people be free. But when I have a problem with the Department of Motor Vehicles, I sent an affidavit to the guy at the top. He didn't respond. But I put the affidavit in a letter or another certified letter to the sheriff, another one to the police chief, another one to the highway patrol. I said, now look, this is what I believe the law is. The affidavit to DMV was never answered. So I want you guys to understand, I know what the law is. Do not infringe on my rights. Otherwise, you can become a defendant in a case. So I carry that paperwork in my car. So if a police officer or deputy or highway patrol stops me, I would ask them, okay, you want my driver's license? You want my proof of insurance? What else would you, oh, you'd like to have my registration? Here. Who's your boss? Your boss is the police chief, right? Okay, so you get this one. And they read it, and it right there at the top, their boss's name. So it's a very short document, but you can rest assured that they're going to read that because this is an affidavit made out to their boss. So then they come back later and they say, have a nice day, goodbye. I've had interactions with all three agencies, and in all three cases, they just simply said, have a nice day. One of the things that's interesting, you'll never get them to explain why you win. They're not going to tell you why you win. The judge told me in that court case and said, you can go home. He didn't tell me, hey, you were correct in your assumptions. No, he just said you're free to leave. And that's what I want to be. I want to be free to leave.
So even if you got the law wrong, if it's not challenged, then it's accepted, and then you're free to go.
Be careful. If you got the law wrong, you don't want to put an affidavit together with the law that's wrong. You don't want to be guilty of perjury or stating false things before a government official. That notary is a government official. And if you start doing that, you might find yourself no longer the plaintiff, but a defendant.
So can you just state the law and just say that therefore this situation doesn't apply to me?
Well, just take any one of an example. A woman is trying to have a statute passed that would infringe upon people who give counseling to people who might suffer from sexual dysphoria. It's called conversion therapy. Some people, like the assemblywoman I was dealing with, she believes this kind of counseling can lead to suicidal tendencies by people. So she's going to want to pass a law that would basically infringe upon the right of pastors and priests and even professional counselors to discuss sexual activities with the individual. Well, that's a clear infringement upon the First Amendment right of free speech and free religion, religious freedom. So we put that in the affidavit. We sent that to her by name, and they pulled the bill.
And so that's just like, is it just a page or 2 pages?
Never longer than 2 pages.
Okay.
It's a long affidavit.
Okay. Sorry.
Quite easy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds simple.
Yes.
Yeah.
They gave us a simple system, but it still requires people to take the time to study the law, go down and have the affidavit notarized. You have to go to the post office and get the green card. There's a certain number of steps you have to take, but once you've taken those steps, you're free. You're free. Your neighbor's not. And your neighbor's going to kind of feel like, how come you get away with it? Because I know the law. And you're supposed to know the law too. That's part of being a member of the republic.
But in those instances where you removed the bill from going forward, that's for everyone, right?
It did affect a lot of people in a positive way, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How do you respond to critics that say affidavits don't have legal force? Some courts might not accept it or take it that seriously. I think you mentioned instances where they didn't even understand it. Some of the courts.
Yeah, The judges need to be properly educated. When I took Best Buy to court, I was trying to follow the process that my mentors have given me. About 5 years before that, I was defending myself in a case. It was a misdemeanor. I didn't pay the traffic fine. Because I didn't pay the traffic fine, it suspended my license. Then I got another one of these rolling stops. So now it's not an infraction anymore. It's a misdemeanor. So I'm in court and there's a district attorney over there. And she said something and I objected. And the judge said, Mr. Beck, you have to explain that. I began to explain and he said, stop. What he said to me, he didn't have to say. But I was very appreciative of what he came out with. He said, Mr. Beck, you bring up some very valid points. Nevertheless, that's not why we're here today. You should have brought that up by way of pre-trial motion. Oh, that's right. If I want constitutional protections in the courtroom, I better make sure I get them before I go to court and enter into their statutory jurisdiction. Thomas Jefferson, in the Declaration of Independence, wrote this sentence: he, speaking of the king, has combined with others, speaking of Parliament and the colonial governor, he has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution. Stop. He's not talking about the United States Constitution, because that came 11 years later after the Revolutionary War. He's talking about English common law. Subjected us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution, unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of, here it comes, acts of pretended legislation. Any statute that is not constitutional is pretended legislation, which, if consented by the people, is legal, but it is not lawful. Lawful is constitutional. Legal is what you accept. Dangerous precedents. Most of the people accept this, so judges would naturally assume that it's law. It's not law, but it is legal. I don't know if I'm losing people on this, but it's very important for them to recognize courts, executive, police officers, they do their job on the basis of what they assume to be the law. And as long as nobody contests it, it's the law. But in this constitutional republic, individual people can do so. In order to really take the country back, we need to build a coalition of people who understand the law and work together in unison. But unlike trying to win an election, I can probably move a county very easily with 30 to 300 people who know how to do these kinds of actions.
So what you're saying is just going back to that court point by the judge, he was saying you should have submitted an affidavit before this court hearing.
When I took Best Buy to court, I did. I put a motion to hear constitutional protections. A week before I put it in 3 weeks before the court date where I was suing Best Buy. I wasn't suing Best Buy for money. I was just suing Best Buy to stop infringing upon my right to come into your store without wearing a mask. The day of the hearing, I got notification from the court saying they did not accept my motion for constitutional right protection. So I had to go into courtroom in the wrong jurisdiction and start discussing the topic. So what I learned was, okay, if I'm doing this again, and I will put the document in, the motion, the pretrial motion to hear my constitutional protections. And I will, if I haven't heard 1 week before my court date, I will go to court and stand before the judge and bring it to her attention. This has been in there for 2 weeks and I haven't received any notification yet. I want to make certain that this discussion regarding my constitutional right is heard before the court date on such and such a date. I'll come back tomorrow or before the regular court date in order to have this issue resolved. But I'm not coming into your courtroom again unless my constitutional protections are adhered to.
Yeah. Well, what would you say to those that say the Constitution is constantly being interpreted by the courts? So when you accuse officials of violating it, isn't that just your interpretations versus someone else's?
Well, yes, it's my interpretation of the law. Now it's their job to refute it, and they can't. If you craft an affidavit based upon constitutional law, proper evidence, facts, and the truth, it can't be refuted. That's why Jack and Margie Flynn, in their 80s, have been teaching people like me across the country that they've got over 10,000 victories. They've never, ever, nor have I, ever gotten an affidavit back from a lawyer, because we craft affidavits that are based on the fact and valid constitutional law. When you do so, they can't refute it. I sat in on a discussion between two judges, both retired judges, and they were discussing unrebutted affidavit. And they agreed with this. Yeah, an unrebutted affidavit stands as truth in pretrial motion. It said if you take an affidavit into a regular courtroom, many judges won't accept it. So somebody would say, well, affidavits aren't effective. They are effective if you use them right. You have to use them through pretrial motion if you're going to go to court, because most of the time you don't have to go to court.
So you're saying, so just to summarize, are you saying that the affidavit is, if not rebutted, not refuted, it becomes legal as a fact of truth, and therefore in pretrial motion there isn't much to debate because that is the fact?
The affidavit properly crafted, properly sent to the proper person with plenty of time to note for them to respond is one of the maxims of law. An unrebutted affidavit stands as truth in court.
As truth.
Your job. If you put the affidavit properly served upon a government official, they must respond. Otherwise, they default.
And when you say it acts as truth in court, what do you mean by that exactly?
I mean that it's a valid document stating what the truth is in the matter. It's how it affects me. I can't do anything about any of my neighbors. They may want to live under that statute. I choose not to because I don't have to. I know what the higher law is. We have something in this country called the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution. That's if a state statute is in violation of the Constitution of the United States, then it's not a law. It's only a statute, and people can voluntarily agree to it, or they can do like I do, say, not me. I don't choose to voluntarily comply. I don't give my consent.
I think that's I'm sure a lot of people a foreign concept to consent to statute, because I think a lot of people assume everyone has to accept that and abide by that. But you're saying that's not the case, actually.
We have to consent to the rule of law as it applies to not hurting anyone else. As I said earlier, law is negative. It's when you hurt somebody, I should be able to go to the law and say, this man did me harm. I'm not going to go over there with my gun and shoot. I'm turning it over to you to deal with him. You have a responsibility to secure my rights, my property, my person, my reputation. That's your job, not tell me how to live.
Yeah, very interesting. Kirk, this has been fascinating. I'm sure a lot of people would want to know more about this and where they can find you, reach out to you, and get that document. Where can they find that?
The basic uh, place I'd like people to go to is the website remedies.us, because there are a couple of videos that explain in more detail what I'm saying regarding the affidavit. That's remedy@law.us. Okay. In order to get the free template, I want them to go to affidavitsecrets.com/conversations. Affidavit is singular, secrets is plural, affidavitsecrets.com/conversations. And there you'll be able to get the template and take a look at the affidavit that we use effectively over here. So if they want to get in touch with me, you go to remedy@law.us or to affidavitsecrets.com, and they'll find the method by which you to get in touch with me more. Anna Sewell wrote one book, The Beautiful Black Beauty. She wrote the book to teach Englishmen how to properly care for horses. She saw it become a bestseller, and 6 months later, she died. The book has had a tremendous effect, initially to bring about more humane actions toward horses, but also the classic literary work. I wrote the book, Officer Hanson, Compassion in Blue, because I want Americans to understand how to use the law, how not to allow the law to be used against them. So that was one of the purposes of the book, Officer Hanson, Compassion in Blue, which is available at Amazon.
Perfect. And we'll put that all in the show notes. Kirk, it was fascinating speaking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
It's my pleasure to be with you today. And I say, God bless England.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Cheers.
Goodbye.